Well, Triple H, welcome back to WWE's Above. This is your third appearance. You know you've got a lot you've got to be working on right now. Again, it is a big night in NXT over at the Capitol Wrestling Center, but it is Royal Rumble month. We are kicking off 2021 with the Royal Rumble, and you are certainly Royal Rumble royalty. So we want to begin this by discussing some of your memories from this pay-per-view. So let's go back a little bit. 2002, the Royal Rumble. It came just weeks after you returned to Raw. You were out for almost 8 months with a torn quad, and we know you wrestled on some live events and on SmackDown leading up to that. But what was the anticipation like to be back on one of our biggest pay-per-views, especially since you had to wait to number 22?
Well, it was great. You know, this. It's hard to sort of put into words the journey that you're on at this point in time, or that I was on at this point in time, because, you know, there was a high probability that I might never wrestle again, right, with the injury that I had, and they had kind of let me know that. So coming back, having the return that I did, and having the opportunity to do that at Madison Square Garden, and the reaction and everything was incredible. But then, what do you do with that, and how can you capitalize on that? And that was the challenge. So, you know, to come back at the Royal Rumble, which one of the biggest pay-per-view events of the year, and, you know, Rumble has changed over the years, but always sort of has been, since its inception, the sort of kickoff of the road towards WrestleMania, the winner getting the title shot, that whole thing. So it was a massive moment, but really sort of that moment of the Rumble all the way through to WrestleMania was kind of like the validation of, yes, I returned, but can I still do this? And can I do it where I was doing it before? So that aspect of it, these moments being in the ring, man, there's just so much meaning there, just not only from a performer standpoint, but just from an athlete standpoint, of the validation of being able to do this still.
And speaking of that Rumble, it was your night, but there's a fun part of that Mr. Perfect returns in that Royal Rumble. He makes it to the final three. It's a nice surprise on top of all of it. But the connection for you to that, of course, is that's the man that helped you win your first Intercontinental Championship 6 years prior. You got the biggest reaction tonight coming back at that Rumble, but what was it like being in there with him? He gets to the final three, considering your connection, of course, you as a fan as well.
It was awesome. You know, for me as a fan, like, Kurt, just one of the best in-ring performers ever, you know, and just athletically and everything that he brought to the table. So when I came into WWE at the time, and Kurt sort of being in that first kind of manager position for me, helping me get to the Intercontinental title, shortly thereafter, him leaving to go to WCW and then returning later, it was kind of a weird full circle moment,
right,
but yet very meaningful. And to see him in that spot and the reaction that he got was awesome.
Well, Icon, I was terrible at math, but we're going to talk some numbers real quick, man. Final four of the Final Four Rumble was 5 times, tied for the most Final Twos at 4, including your last Rumble appearance when you won the WWE Championship in 2016. Only one of only 7 to win multiple Royal Rumbles, and only you and the Nature Boy have won the WWE title in the match. With all these Rumble achievements, plus the significant singles matches you've had on the show, would you call this pay-per-view the foundation of your career, sir?
Well, first of all, I had no idea any of those stats until you just said them. It don't make sense when you say it, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it goes without saying, but let me just say it. It's you know, it's funny. I think people put a lot of stock into that now, like Grand Slam winners or Rumble, or, you know, the moments and how many people they eliminated and all that stuff. I don't know. We were kind of in the front end of that happening. So it wasn't really a thought process. I didn't think about, you know, going into I don't know. Didn't think about going into the Rumble in multiple times. And to be honest, I've never thought about it until you just said it, that, oh, Rick won the WWE Championship there, and I did as well. That never connected with me. Rumble's one of those great matches where it can last the length of time that it does, and every couple of minutes there's this surprise. Sometimes the surprises are underwhelming. Sometimes the surprises are, oh my God, and just having those moments. And they're creatively, they're a lot of fun to put together because of those moments, and you're constantly looking at how you can get it to have that excitement level. But that's the genius of what Pat Patterson put together. Pat, the sort of the concept creator of the Royal Rumble, that excitement level, I think it lends itself to statistics. It lends itself to number of eliminations and how many times you've been in and how long you've lasted in the Rumble and length of time. And that's what, to me, makes it so great. It's funny that for me, I don't necessarily connect myself. If I was to think about my career, I don't necessarily connect myself to the Rumble. For me, if you ask me about guys connecting at the Rumble, I would feel like it's, I don't know, for me, if off the top of my head, I would say Austin, because there's just the moment in time of him sort of putting the stamp on his meteoric rise and winning the Rumble and going on to WrestleMania. And also Kane, just the number of people that he threw out in his monster years. Other than that, to me, it's a great event and a fun event, but I never put it as a stamp for myself. But to be honest, I've more thought about the Rumble for my career as moments in time where I had the street fight with Foley. And while the Rumble was the pay-per-view, we were the title match on that, and it was a different level of pressure, and it kind of put us both on the map in a different way, so to speak. So I correlate that event more with those matches than I do Rumble moments.
Yep.
Wow.
A ton of classics at Rumble. Evan's numbers highlighted the 2016 Rumble quite a bit. That was your first match in over roughly 9 months since WrestleMania the previous year. At that WrestleMania, you have a great quote in an episode of 24. You look to Stephanie and you say, let's see if I remember how to do this. And then, boom, 9 months later, you're winning the WWE title at the Royal Rumble. That 2016 run sees a lot of great stuff from you from there forth. A couple of classic matches, including just a great match with Dolph Ziggler on Raw, a hidden gem. But off of that quote you said to Stephanie, you mentioned in 2002, feeling you had to prove something to yourself. Was that in a different way, obviously? Was there some of that in 2016 with that championship run and everything that followed after it?
Absolutely, because it was completely out of the blue and completely unplanned in a way. There was a moment in time with injuries and everything else that was happening in the company where, I had sort of gotten to a place in my career where Vince would joke, I'm in case of emergency, break glass. I'm sitting on the wall with my chunks on, and he was like, in case of emergency, we're breaking the glass, and here's what we're going to do. And I was like, oh my God, when you've seen Taker now talk about this, and you've seen it from other guys. I don't believe I've ever done anything harder in my career than have moments where you don't wrestle for an entire year or longer or a long period of time like that. And then you come out and it's just like, okay, go do this at the highest level. Try to continue to add to the stuff that you've done without letting yourself down or anybody else down. It really is. That is the most difficult challenge I've ever faced. And having those moments in time where you're doing this once a year, the pressure is immense.